And let's say with that story now, former Environmental Affairs Minister Nomvula Mokonyane has denied damning allegations against her at the state capture inquiry. She testified at the commission yesterday, where she dismissed former Bosasa COO Angelo Agrizi's claims that she'd been on the company's payroll and had many of her personal expenses paid for by Bosasa. She also denied that security upgrades to her Krugersdorp home were paid for by the company, while defending her relationship with the Watson family. She says she never asked Bosasa to donate money for her or any ANC events. Let's take a listen. Before we take a listen to an extract from that testimony, let's come to Nickolaus Bauer. And Nickolaus, welcome to the AM Report. You were at the State Capture Commission just yesterday, and I suppose, listening to the denials from Mokonyane, the question, I suppose, is, so in her view, Angelo Agrizi, driven by hatred, by desperation, to what end, though? Why target her?
Well, she didn't exactly paint that picture as to exactly why Angelo Agrizi would come and specifically character assassinate her. And she also mentioned the name Dudu Myeni, and hence the allegation that he was driven by misogyny and hatred of women. But essentially, she was suggesting that he's a tool in a political game. And she's not exactly sure why she was chosen out of all other ANC leaders to be taken to the sword by Angelo Agrizi's testimony. But I think for me the most important part of her testimony was to say we can't dispute the fact that Bosasa did support the ANC, but it's not the only company that does. She even said you need to look in the broader picture of corporate support for the ANC, even implicating state-owned enterprises, and saying, companies as big as Eskom, which last time I checked was really battling to keep the lights on, has used its money to support the ANC, and specifically Bosasa. Bosasa went as far as to provide venues for provincial executive committee meetings. They used Bosasa's various properties as sort of election locations and points where they could drive election campaigns and that type of thing, and even relied on Bosasa to try and put together food packs and lunch packs for volunteers that were working on ANC work. So, Nomvula Mokonyane pouring cold water on all of Angelo Agrizi's testimony yesterday.
Yeah, so she admits to those things, but she stopped short of saying, why did Bosasa get particular government contracts? But before we delve into that, Nick Bauer, let's take a listen to what Mokonyane had to say yesterday.
Out of curiosity, I lifted the trampoline up and noticed a new-looking Aston Martin vehicle parked under the trampoline. The vehicle was dark in color and could have been either dark blue or black. I then knew that the person residing at the premises had to be very rich to afford a vehicle like that.
Chairperson, yes, there is an Aston Martin. The Aston Martin is neither black or blue. It is cream white. And cream white, black and blue actually depicts that maybe the person was informed or the person was inside the garage. But the fact that he wants to assert on record in his affidavit that he has sworn his oath of, I don't know whether he affirmed or he did whatever. He says it was either dark or blue. There's never been that kind of an Aston Martin in my house.
So Nick, as we continue to unpack just this special relationship that Nomvula Mokonyane did admit to between her and the late Gavin Watson, is that where it ended, she says, this relationship that dates back pre-democracy?
Well, essentially that's why she said that there was this interaction between herself and not only Bosasa, but specifically the Watson family, right? And saying that Gavin Watson was an activist in his own right, and they did share a special relationship. She even went so far as to say, just because my daughter worked for Bosasa, her daughter who had previously studied in China, and also, according to Angelo Agrizi, was really lavished with a lot of gifts and support by Bosasa, from car rentals to payment for specific projects. Nomvula Mokonyane said, my daughter is a professional in her own right, and I didn't govern that relationship. If Bosasa ended up renting a car for her or paid her for specific work carried out, that's due to her own skills, that's due to her own pedigree. And once again, coming back to the point, even these allegations that Bosasa paid for security upgrades, she said that she really couldn't delve into the specifics of that because her husband was in charge of security at their private home in Krugersdorp. And she, at least at one point during her testimony, said, I have absolutely no idea what Angelo Grisi's agenda is. There's obviously hatred between him and Gavin Watson. But unfortunately, Chair, dead men tell no tales. The two people that could corroborate this evidence that she was giving yesterday are no longer with us. Not only Gavin Watson, but indeed her husband as well is also late. So I'm not too sure how the Commission is going to try and navigate that particular minefield.
And those were the words from Nomvula Mokonyane, because that was my next question to you, and I thought it would be quite a crass question to say, or quite a crass statement to make, in that it's quite convenient for her to say that her husband knew of these possible security upgrades at her home because he has died. But she says it herself.
Well, that's exactly it. Yeah? I mean, the only two people that could corroborate this, like I was saying, are those two individuals. So I don't know what Raymond's is going to take from that. But he was at pains to say, as soon as Angelo Grisi put these allegations against Gavin Watson, I mean, they were pretty detailed. You even had that video at the State Capture Commission of Gavin Watson in a safe, dealing with hundreds upon hundreds of thousands of rand in cold hard cash. Chairperson Raymond Zondo, the Deputy Chief Justice, said, we did try and get an affidavit from Gavin Watson, but unfortunately he died in that car accident before his lawyers could respond to our application. So
it is, I just want to wrap up this part of the state capture inquiry, but if we look at the admissions that Nomvula Mokonyane made yesterday on the stand, they are glaring. For one, the issue around her daughter getting a lot of support from Bosasa, from rental cars to other gifts and so on. Because why Bosasa? The second thing, yes, several repairs and upgrades were made to my home, she says, or again, conveniently, by Bosasa, but I had no intimate knowledge of them. My husband had it.
She couldn't exactly confirm whether or not Bosasa had indeed carried out.
But what about that SMS from her PA to Richard from, this is what the SMS says, quote, Dear Richard, there's a problem at the house with the alarm system. There's no address given in that SMS to Richard from Bosasa. It talks about a relationship that's quite familiar.
Indeed. I mean, she basically said that her service provider for security was stretched at a particular moment when a tree fell over and damaged a boundary wall.
Be that as it may,
and
very
Bosasa
convenient that it's Bosasa.
into the breach. Just because they're a corporate citizen and obviously didn't expect anything in return. That's what Nomvula Mokonyane is telling us.
So what's the issue around, there's been a lot of talk about whether the State Capture Commission of Inquiry, which has repeatedly over the years said it is not a court of law. It's there to hear testimony. But there's a lot of talk now, given how many witnesses, not only the former minister, have been able to provide explanations for serious allegations of looting and corruption. What's the discussion around that, the so-called toothless nature of the State Capture Commission?
Well, you have to ask yourself the question. I mean, there's some pretty explosive testimony that's happening once again at the State Capture Commission. Are we going to be looking back a year from now, once again? I mean, it was over a year since Angelo Grisi took the stand and first implicated all these people at Bosasa. What exactly has happened? I mean, I know that the MPA was talk about bringing charges against Angelo Grisi, but the wheels of justice seem to be moving extremely slowly if there's any substance to allegations against him, any substance to allegations against anybody else that has been implicated by his testimony.
So, Nick, before we wrap up our interview, there was another soundbite you wanted to talk to us about.
Yeah, I mean, Arthur Fraser is the former Director General of the State Security Agency. He appeared, or at least wants to appear before the Commission. His legal representative, Musisika Kane, reporting to the Commission yesterday that Arthur Fraser wants to put his side of the story after former senior officials at the State Security Agency, Gibson and Genje and others, implicated him in testimony. His allegations that he wants to put before the Commission seem very, very explosive. Let's hear from his legal representative now.
He's been accused of treason that he reluctantly comes here. And he comes here, Chair, to complete your picture of this thing called state capture, to complete it because what the Chair was told, at least from the intelligence point of view, which is not something that ordinarily should be done at a place like this, is this. His evidence is going to be important because basically he's going to complete the picture for Chair about secrets of the states, of this state. about who exactly is subverting our state. And he's going to complete the picture because, unlike many other witnesses, he's going to have to share the secrets with the chair relating not just to those who are in the administrative arm of government. He'll have to complete this by doing something he reluctantly does, to tell the chair about things that relate to the president or the presidents of this country, past and present.
So, Nick, that's going to be huge. If he gets the opportunity to testify, incredible evidence, he says, against what? Former presidents.
Indeed, and not only that, but he also said there was going to be testimony that implicated judges, that implicated parliamentarians, that implicated people that are involved in the administrative arm of government. But here's the caveat, right? He asked Deputy Chief Justice Raymond Zondo, Musi Sikakani's legal representative, if we put these secrets before the commission, we need an indemnity from prosecution. And essentially, Judge
And
Raymond,
is that within the commission's power?
Well, immediately, Judge Raymond Zondo said that's not within our ambit and our scope. So this could just be hot air. Let's just be
we've seen it before.
Indeed.
Nickolaus Bauer, thanks very much for coming into the AM report. Just a short wrap there of what took place at the state capture inquiry. Never a dull moment when the Deputy Chief Justice is residing over that kind of testimony.